Hello, in this class we'll be talking about price structure, markup and markdown. Any price S consists of three parts. It is cost plus expense plus profit. In this formula, S is selling price. C is cost. E is expense. And P is profit. Cost is how much money you spend for the product that you intend to use to produce other products, or maybe you're reselling those products, so that's the cost, how much you yourself spend for the raw materials or for the product itself. E is the expense. That's all expenditure which is calculated on top of the cost, such as rent, salary, whatever that can be that you have to spend in addition to your raw materials or the products you are selling. P is going to be the profit that you would like to get by selling each item. An important thing, an important definition is that of a markup, M. And markup is expense plus profit. Therefore, markup is this part here. Expense plus profit is the markup. I'll write it here that M is markup. Markup is always met in one of three ways. In all problems that we'll be solving, you will notice that markup will come in three ways. First way, markup can be met as amount. Second way, markup can be met as percent on cost. And third way, markup can be met as percent on selling price. For example, if I have selling price which is $100 and if I have cost which is $50, we have markup as amount, of course it is $50. As percent, let's call this RS. Markup as a rate on selling price is 50%, because selling price is $100, so markup rate as percent on selling price will be 50%, and markup rate as percent on cost will be 100%. So the same markup can be expressed either as amount, which is $50 in this example, or as rate on selling price, which is 50% of the selling price, or as rate on cost. In this case, it will be 100%. When you solve problems, you need to be aware about this, that you can have markup given as percent on cost, on selling price, or as an amount. By the way, the same concerns expense and profit. Expense and profit can also be given in these three ways. Let's proceed now to several problems where we'll learn how to use these definitions and this major formula here. Our first problem is this. The cost of an item is $450. The markup rate on selling price is 43%. What is the selling price of the item? Well, this problem involves only the cost and then markup rate on selling price. We have to be very careful that this markup rate is given here on selling price. That we'll be using in our solution. What we need to find this selling price of an item. In this problem, we have three things involved. That is cost, selling price, and markup. Therefore, the formula that we'll be using is this. Selling price is cost plus markup. This formula comes from this formula, which is selling price is cost plus expense plus profit. And because expense plus profit is the markup, therefore we can write that selling price is cost plus markup. Of course, we don't know the selling price in this problem, therefore we'll leave it as a letter S. But we do know cost, which is $450. And also we know that markup rate on selling price is 43%. So what we'll do, we'll take 43% of selling price. And because we don't know selling price, we keep it as letter S. Once again, this markup is here. In this problem, we're given that markup is 43% of the selling price, and that's exactly what is written here. Now we have an equation which involves selling price, and we need to find the selling price. It's only one unknown in this equation. As in any equation, what we'll do, we'll collect all unknown terms to one side and all known terms to the other side. Let's use left side to collect all unknowns. In this case, the unknown is S, selling price. S minus 0.43 times S equals to 450. So we have moved 43% of selling price to the left side of this equation. Next step will be to factor out S. So we have the same selling price here. We will be now factoring it out. In fact, I want to remind you how you would factor out things. In high school algebra, you know that AB plus AC can be written as A, B plus C. So the same factor, which is met in these two terms, can be factored out in this fashion. The same, of course, concerns subtraction. So if we have AB minus AC, A can be factored out as this. It's the same factor which we can remove as common factor, and we will create this bracket here. That's what we'll be doing here. You need to realize that when you see this letter S here, it is actually S times 1. We can always multiply this by 1, because multiplication by 1 doesn't change the value. And because S is the same factor here, we will factor it out. And in the bracket, we'll have 1 minus 0.43, and that will be 450. Another way to understand it is that we have the whole amount as 100% of that amount, from which we remove 43%. Of course, we'll have 57% left of the amount. Well, our final stage will be to find this as it's 450 divided by 0.57. 789.47. That is going to be the solution for this problem. And the solution is based on this very simple formula, but we always need to keep track what we're given and exactly what is the base for those percentages given. In this case, we are given 43%, and that is the on selling price. So we notice that and use this 43% as percent on selling price. A lot of students would make a mistake here and would use $450 and would find 43% of $450, which would be a mistake because $450 is the cost. Let's go ahead to the next problem. The next problem reads, an electronics store sells headphones for $150. The markup rate on cost is 17%. What is the cost of headphones? This is a very similar problem to the previous problem, and we start with the same formula. Selling price is cost plus markup. We know that the store sells headphones for $150, which means that selling price is $150, but we don't know the cost. Because we know that we don't know the cost, we'll keep it as letter C, and selling price in this case is $150 equals C, the amount we don't know, plus markup. And markup here is markup rate on cost, which is 17%, and it's markup rate on cost. 0.17 times C. 150 is C. Now we have all those unknowns, which is C, already on one side, so we don't need to move anything anywhere. But we will factor out C, and we can solve now for C. 150 divided by 1 plus 0.17. 128.21. The solution of this problem is based on the same idea as we used in the previous problem. We start with this basic equation. We pay attention what we're given, and especially we pay attention that markup rate on cost here is given, and therefore we use it as such and build this equation that we solve by factoring out the unknown. Let's proceed to the next problem. If the markup rate on cost is 35%, what is the markup rate on selling price? The interesting part about this problem is that we're not given cost or we're not given selling price. But in order to overcome this difficulty, what we'll be doing, we will simply investigate this problem per each $1 of the price of the selling price. Even though we are not given the selling price or the cost, we can ask a question about each dollar of that selling price, because you need to realize that any selling price consists of dollars, and we can explore what is going on with each $1 of that selling price. Again, the formula is the same, which is selling price is cost plus markup. And now we have $1 of the selling price. Then we don't know yet the cost for that $1. So we'll write it as C plus markup. So what are we having about markup here? We have markup rate on the selling price is unknown, but we have markup rate on cost is 35%. That's exactly what we'll write here. We'll find 35% of cost times C. In other words, $1 is cost factored out, 1 plus 0.35. Finally, cost will be 1 divided by 1.35. This is 0.740740741. I'm not rounding this because we will be looking for percent, and we need all decimals here. We're investigating what is happening for each dollar of the price, but we need to keep as much precision as possible because we don't actually know the selling price. maybe it is in millions of dollars, so it will be sensitive to all decimals. Well, once we know the cost, we can now find the markup, and the markup is selling price minus cost. And we can find markup from here. Selling price is $1 minus this cost, minus 0.740740741. Markup is 0.25925 9. But we actually now need only 4 decimals here. The reason why is because we're looking for percent. And in fact, what is going on here is that we found this markup for each $1, but that's the same as percent. If you now ignore for a second all those decimals, it's rounded to 2 decimals is 26 here. So it's 0.26 rounded to 2 decimals. In other words, it means that it's 26 cents for each $1. This means that it's 26%, because percent is value per 100. So if $1 is 100 cents, therefore 26 is 0.26 per $1 is the same as 26%. But we will now take more precision, because we want our answers to be rounded to 2 decimal places as percent. So final answer will be RS, which is markup rate on selling price, is 25.93%. So we take it from here, we round this to 4 decimals, this decimal number, but as percent, it is 25.93%. In other words, if we have markup rate on cost, which is 35%, the markup rate on the selling price is 25.93%. So the way, once again, we solved this problem, we just investigated what is happening per each $1 of the selling price. And for each $1 of the selling price, we could build our equation using $1 instead of S, and we found the cost. We kept all the decimals here. And with this cost in mind, we found the markup amount. And because we are investigating here per $1, this markup amount can be translated to percent, which is 25.93%. Our next problem reads, if the markup rate on selling price is 25%, what is the markup rate on cost? So we're given 25% as the markup rate on selling price. In this problem, we will also use the same trick, but we'll say that what happens per each $1 of cost. So this time, we investigate what is going on for each $1 of cost. Again, any cost consists of dollars, and it's a legitimate question to ask what happens per each $1 of that cost, no matter what that cost is. Well, selling price is cost plus markup. That's our main formula. We don't know the selling price. We'll leave it as letter S. Cost is $1 because we investigate what happens per each $1. And markup is given as a rate on selling price, which is 25%. So 0.25% times S. 0.25 times S. Well, we collect all unknowns to the left side. And we factor out S. Of course, We can solve this, and we can see that S equals to 1 divided by 0.75. S equals 1.33. 33, 33, 33, and so on. Which means that markup is 0.33333333, and so on. Again, for each dollar of cost, we have markup, which is 0.33333, and so on. And markup rate on cost, therefore, is 33.33%. So we have markup, which is rounded 33 cents, and 33 cents for each dollar is 33%. But with the necessary precision here, we understand it's 33.33%. Michelle's business is to sell dresses. Each dress has a cost of $340. The overhead expenses are 21% on selling price, and the required profit is 17% on cost. We have a couple of questions to answer. First is, what is the selling price of the dress, and also what is the break-even price? We will start with part A first. In this problem, we have $340, which is the cost. Then we have overhead expenses given to us, which are 21% on selling price, which we need to pay attention at, that it's on selling price. And we have profit, which is 17% on cost. Because this problem connects cost, selling price, expense, and profit, we will start with the formula for selling price, which is cost plus expense plus profit. We don't know the selling price, so we will keep it as letter S, but we know the cost, which is 340. Then we are given that expenses are 21% on selling price, so 0.21 times S, which we don't know, that's why we keep it as a letter, plus 17% on cost, 0.17. And what is the cost? The cost is 340 times 340. Let's move the unknown to the left side of this equation. So what are the unknowns, by the way? So we have S. This is our unknown, and we will move it to the left side of the equation. We have S minus 0.21 S, and that is equal to 340 plus 0.17 times 340. We can factor out this unknown S, 1 minus 0.21, and here we still have 340 plus 0.17 times 340. Finally, I am ready to find this S, which will be the ratio. On top we have 340 plus 0.17 times 340. In the denominator we have 0.79. So 1 minus 0.21 is 0.79. And now I'll be solving this. And here it is. 503.54. Our selling price is $503.54. Great. Let's proceed to part B of this problem. So this was part A, and part B involves break-even price. What is break-even price? Break-even price is the price which is consisting of cost and expense. So when you sell a product at break-even price, your profit is 0. You don't make any money and you don't lose any money. But when you sell the product at break-even price, you return the money you paid for the product and the money you also spend to make that sale of the product possible. What we need the cost and expense to find the break-even price. Well, break-even price then is cost, which is $340, plus expense, which is 21% on selling price. 0.21 times selling price, which is 503.54. We already found it. 503.54. So once again, we used selling price that we found and plugged it in here. This way now we can find a break-even price. Let's go ahead and compute it. Break-even price is 445.74, which means that if you sell the product for this price, you will not lose money, you will not make money, but you will return your cost and expense. Here you go. That's the solution for this problem. Let's go ahead now and check out our next problem. Huang sells service plans for $120 each. If the required profit is 43% on cost and overhead expenses are 18% on cost, what is the break-even price of the service plan? Well, in this problem again, we know that Huang sells service plans, which means that $120 here is our selling price. Again, we're given required profit here, which is given on cost, and we're given expenses, which are also given on cost. We need break-even price, which involves cost and expense, so we need cost in order to find break-even price. Therefore, again, we need an equation which connects selling price, cost, expense, and profit. Again, we'll be starting with this equation. Selling price is cost plus expense plus profit. Now we know selling price, right? S, which is $120. But we don't know the cost, so we keep it as C. We know that expense is 18% on cost, 0.18 times C. And we know that profit is 43% on cost, 0.43 times C. We're lucky in this problem because all our unknowns in the one side, so we don't need to make any movement from one side to another side. We will simply factor out C from here. 120 is C, so we factor it out, and we already know how to factor out when there are two terms, but we can factor out with many terms in the same fashion. So it will be 1 plus 0.18 plus 0.43. Okay, now 120 equals C times 1.61. C therefore is 120 divided by 1.61. It's 74.53. So the cost is $74.53. So what is the break-even price? Break-even price is cost plus expense. Now we know the cost. The cost is 74.53. Here we found it. So we use this here. Plus expense. An expense is 18% on cost. 0.18 times cost, which is the same thing, 74.53. Break-even price therefore is 87.53. 95. Thus, we have answered the question of the problem and we found break-even price, which is 87.95. Pretty straightforward problem based on the same ideas as we explored before, except that maybe the only difference is that now we have three terms when we factored out. Three terms here. And once again, I just want to I just need you to understand that we always can add this multiplication by 1. So this way, when you factor it out, 1 will stay here in the bracket. From my experience, I know this could be confusing to students, but that's just again, very simple formula from your high school. So we have the same factor times. So we have the same factor here, AB plus AC plus AD, and we can factor it out the same way as we can do it with two terms. Like so. And that's exactly what we used here. Okay. All right, let's go ahead to explore another problem now. The markup rate on cost is 45%. If the selling price is $560 and the expenses are 34% on selling price, what is the profit amount? Well, in order to find profit amount, we need to find for sure cost, and then we need to add expense on top of cost. So we need to find break-even price, and that break-even price will help us to find the profit amount when we compare it with the selling price. Let's just go in order and solve this problem for the cost. Selling price is cost plus markup. So this time we'll use this formula, cost and markup, because we're given here markup rate on cost. So we'll be using information about markup. And selling price is $560. Cost is unknown, so we keep it as C, plus markup, which is 45% on cost, 0.45 times C, which means that 560 is cost, which is factored out like so, and cost is found as 560 divided by 1.45. This is 386.21. So the cost is $386.21. We're not done yet because we need to find the profit amount. And what is the profit amount? Well, after we know the markup rate on cost, we can find markup, and we need markup because markup is expense plus profit. Here, profit will be markup minus expense. So if we know the markup amount, and if we know the expenses, which we will know when we find 34% on selling price, we'll be able to find profit. Well, let's find markup amount. We will be using this formula shortly to find profit, but let's find first markup amount. Markup amount is 35% on cost, right? So that's what we're given here. Markup rate is 35% on 45% on cost. So therefore, markup amount is 0.45 times cost, which is 386.21. We already found that cost. Therefore, we can put it in here. So markup amount is 173.79. What about expense? Expense are 34% on selling price. So It's 0.34 times selling price, which is $560. 190.40. So that is our expense. What we'll be doing now, we'll be using this markup amount and expense amount, and we'll be plugging these into the formula for profit. So I can find profit now, which is markup minus expense. 173.79 minus 190 minus 16.61. A very important thing is to notice that we have negative sign here. And what does that negative sign mean? It means that actually this is not a profit but a loss. So we have here loss. When we have negative profit, it is loss. In this problem, we have a loss of $16.61. You just pay attention when a problem is asking you for profit, it could be negative. Some problems will say what is the profit or loss. Some problems will not say that, but if the answer is negative for profit, it means that you experience a loss. In this problem, there is loss of $16.61. Here we go. Let's proceed now to the next problem. Our next problem is this. A laptop has a regular price of $1,200. The overhead expenses are 12% on cost, and the regular profit is 15% on cost. During a sale, the laptop was marked down by 30%. What is the new profit or loss during the sale? In this case, we are talking about a regular selling price. So we have a regular selling price, $1,200. But also pay attention that the laptop will be marked down and will have a reduced selling price during the markdown. And markdown is simply a reduced selling price. Marked down price is a reduced selling price. We'll talk about that when the time comes. But first and foremost, what we should do is to find the cost of the laptop. Here, selling price is cost plus expense plus profit. It's going to be a very similar process to what we saw before. And the regular price is 1,200. So instead of S, we'll put 1,200. The cost is something we don't know, so we keep it as E, plus expense is 12% on cost times C, plus profit is 15% on cost. So 0.15 times C. 1,200 is going to be C, so we factor out C, and we already discussed how this works. C times 1.27. C is 1,200 divided by 1.27, and it is 944.88. This is a very similar process to what we did before. Now we need to find the marked down selling price. Now marked down means that the product is on sale, and we will be finding now reduced selling price. as red means reduced selling price. It's a selling price which has been reduced by the markdown. And our selling price is 1,200, and we reduce it by 30%. So we'll find now the new selling price or reduced selling price. And that's $840, which means that during the sale, the laptop is sold for $840. Now, we need to find the new profit and loss, which means that we also need to find break-even price, and then we will compare reduced selling price with the break-even price. This way we'll find out what is going on with profit and loss. Now, break-even price, as we did several times before, is cost plus expense. Now, the cost is found already, so break-even price is 944.88 for cost plus expense, which is 12% on cost, 0.12 times C, which is 944.88 again. So break-even price is going to be 1,558.27. That's the break-even price. What we need now is to compare this break-even price, and I remind you that break-even price is the price when we do not make any profit or do not experience any loss. We return our cost and expense, so we compare this break-even price with the reduced selling price. So the new profit and loss, which we can use P reduced, right? So it's profit reduced. This is the difference between selling price reduced and break-even price. I think this is pretty much straightforward idea, is that you take that reduced selling price, the price you have on sale, and you compare with that break-even price, which involves cost and expense. Now, this reduced selling price already was found, is $840, and break-even price is $1,058.27. We already know that because that break-even price is higher than the reduced selling price, we know that during the sale, the laptop will be in the loss. So the profit will be in the loss, so it will be loss. Let's compute that. Minus 218.27. We have here minus, and this means that we're talking here about loss of 218.27. In other words, when the laptop is on sale, we know that the company experiences a loss of $218.27. By the way, it is quite common for retail places to have loss during sales. That's because in retail, when there is sale, either that retail place needs to get rid of the product and they are ready to experience the loss, because keeping that product, servicing that product, all that stuff could involve expenditure, and loss during the sale could be less than the expenditure incurred by keeping the product. Or also, it could be a very great deal such that the company experiences loss, but it could be that this sale attracts customers who enter the store and could buy other products attracted by that great price. So loss is pretty common during big sales events in retail places. Now let's check out our last problem. The cost of hiking boots is $190 per pair if the expenses are 23% on the cost and the regular profit is 30% of the selling price. What markdown rate will ensure that the store still makes profit of $10 per pair? So the question here is that during the sale, we still want to have $10 per pair, right? We don't want to have any loss. And the question is, what markdown rate can we afford? What percent we can put on sale in order still to make $10 per pair as profit? Okay, so let's analyze this problem. Again, we're given here that we have the cost, we're given expenses, which are on cost, and we're given profit, which is of the selling price. Again, we have that formula which connects selling price, cost, expense, and profit. We don't know the selling price, so we keep it as S. What about the cost? The cost is $190. Expense is 23% of the cost, so 0.23 times 190, because cost is 190. And profit is 30% of the selling price. So we have to pay attention, it's on the selling price right now, and it's 0.3 times S. We collect all unknowns on the left side, and all that we know will be on the right side. We will factor out S, and we'll find this S from this equation. So it will be a fraction. .86. 333.86. That's our selling price S. Let's review here that reduced profit is selling price reduced minus break-even price. Well, we already know selling price, but we don't know reduced selling price, and we don't know break-even price. But we know that we must have still profit of $10, right? So we know that P reduced must be $10. And I'll just rewrite it here in this way. We still need two ingredients to solve this problem. We need to find S reduced and break-even price for this problem. Let's go ahead and find those ingredients. First is S reduced. Well, we cannot find it completely as of now because we don't know the markdown rate. But the way we'll write it is this. We know that the regular selling price is 333.86, but reduced selling price will be 1 minus R here, right? So we reduce that regular selling price by some markdown rate R, which we don't know yet. And we'll leave it at that for now. Later on, we'll be using this as reduced in this equation. What about the break-even price? It's cost plus expense. And what is cost in this case? Cost is 190. Plus, what is expense? Expense is 23% on cost, 0.23 times 190. So we know that break-even price is 233.7. With this in mind, we will be now fill in an equation which will be solving for R. And what this is, we will be using this idea here. So 10 is equal to S reduced 333.86 1 minus R minus break-even price minus 233.7. We need to get to R in this equation. So all knowns will be, let's say, on the left side, and the unknown will be on the right side. Now we'll be getting to R. So 10 plus 233 will be 243.7 divided by 333.86. So from here, R is 1 minus 243.7 divided by 333.86. R is 0.2701 or 27.01%. That's the solution for this problem. And this finalizes also our class dedicated to the price structure, markups, and markdowns. Bye for now.